Hello there and welcome back to my channel, or if this is the first video of mine you are seeing, then welcome. Well, I feel like I have right in front of me what is a neutral makeup lover's dream. The 42 color palette from Beauty Bay, the neutral one. Look at this giant palette. I know this has been out for probably a very long time. I am very, very late to trying Beauty Bay, but I've heard nothing but good things, and a lot of you have said how much you like Beauty Bay and their formula, and that I probably would really enjoy them. So they recently had a sale. It was kind of like during the holidays, and you could buy these really large palettes for like $13 each. So I bought this one, and I bought the smoky one, which I will be using in a video in the future. It's going to take me a while to do a video with these because I'm hoping to do as many looks as I can. I have it planned right now to do 6 different eye looks, so I'm just going to be doing like look 1 and 2 and then 3, 4. That way I can make sure that I'm getting as many looks done as possible with this palette, because with 42 eyeshadows there are a ton to create. But if I do it like that, I believe there will be maybe 12 eyeshadows that I won't use, but what I'll do is at the very end I will swatch those 12 that I haven't used. I just let a random number generator pick out my shades for both looks 1 and 2, so I'm going to show you the look 1 swatches first so you can see that. So that way you are still seeing swatches of the palette, but we won't be doing regular live swatches. So we have Sugar, Locket, Sepia, or Sepia, I think that's how you say that, Glam, and Paul. So I think these are so beautiful, and they swatched so incredible. These shimmer shades were very smooth, very creamy looking. I mean, they look like wet metallic shades, and the mattes swatched perfectly as well. So I'm going to zoom you in, and we're going to get started on look number 1. So we're going to do look number 1 over here. Also, excuse my voice. I feel like I'm having a little bit of issue, like it's wanting to start sounding hoarse a little bit. Okay, the first thing I want to do though, so I am going to use a shade. I don't know if I want to use the shade Bone or Twig, because I want to set my eyeshadow primer. Why don't we use both? We'll use one on one side and one on the other, so that way that will be 2 more shades that I know that I will have used in this palette. So for this eye over here, we are going to take the shade Bone. And I'm just taking that on a Flawless concealer brush from e.l.f. And we're going to set that eyeshadow primer with that shade. And then once we get to look number 2, we'll set that with the shade Twig. That'll be 2 more shades I can use. I know this brand also has 9-pan and 15-pan versions of these palettes as well, but considering the big sale they were having, and you could get these large palettes for $13, I felt like that was honestly my best move, so I did buy 2 of them. Did I need them? No. But I've always wanted to try this brand. I hear nothing but good things. Okay, so I just wanted to make sure my eyeshadow primer is nice and set. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just do this look first, and then I'll go on over here, so I can I'm hoping I can do some timestamps in the description. I'll have to see how it goes. Okay, on a Sigma E24, it's hard to hold this up, I'm going to go in with the shade Paul. Like, I'll try to have the looks in the description box with timestamps and like have the shades next to it, like as to what shades I've used. So if you have this palette and you're just looking for some more inspiration, because I know these palettes have been out for a while. So I know there's probably a ton of looks out there using these, but I've never tried this brand, and I couldn't wait to. Especially with these large palettes. I mean, it's a large 42-pan neutral palette. I had to have that. I mean, I didn't have to have that, but, you know, I'm just going to tell myself I had to have it. That went on very easily. It's really pretty. We'll go back into that shade Bone, which was that first shade I used, and blend right around the edges of this shade. Okay, and on that same brush, I'm going in with the shade Sepia, S-E-P-I-A, I think that's how you say that word. And I'm going to press that on this outer half of my lid. I didn't pick up too much, so I might have to go back in. Yeah, I think I'm going to have to. Make sure it's fully coated out here, the brush, because I didn't pick up too much. Just going to start swirling my brush around and really blending this out, or starting to. So far so good with these shades. They're blending out really easily, working really nicely together. I just keep going back in with Balm just to make sure everything's nice and blended out. On a Sigma E54, we're going in with the shade Sugar, and I'm going to take that right in the very center of my lid. I'm sure these shades would definitely be impactful using your finger, but I just want to kind of keep them more precise. So that's why I want to use a brush with all of these shades. Of course, you could also spray your brush too. Then using that same brush, I'm going in with the shade Locket, and we're going to place that right here at the beginning portion of my lid. Very pretty. Yeah, that's really pretty. Yeah, these would definitely, I feel like, be more impactful with your finger, but maybe when the next time I have some shorter press-ons on, I can do that instead. Okay, I'm going to go in with my Smashbox and Becca Under Eye Corrector. I'm going to go ahead and do the lower lash line on this side. Okay, I felt like that took me forever to come back and do my concealer. There was a little spider sitting on the top of the concealer, so I had to put him outside. So I'm going to go in with this Ilia. This is the True Skin Serum Concealer in SC.5 Arrowroot. So I'm just going to use like a teeny little dot of this, because I feel like the corrector really does enough, but I just like to have a little bit of concealer to go over the top of that. Okay, then I'm going to take the shade Glam. I only dipped into that shade once, and I'm just going to run that all along my lower lash line. This is quite a deeper matte shade, so I just wanted to pick up a little bit of it. Okay, and then I am going to go back in with that Locket shade, and we're going to place that right here on this inner corner. Kind of swooping that up in here, and a little bit on that lower lash line. Okay, so here are the shades that the random generator picked out for look number 2. We have Cowboy, Twig, Iris, Cocktail, and Doll. Look at that shade right there. Like, oh my gosh. That is gorgeous. I didn't even realize that it had picked one of these setter shades for the number generator, because I was saying, well, I could use one on the other side. So we're going to start with the shade Twig. So I'm glad that I ended up picking Bone for the other one, because I didn't even realize that it had actually picked the shade Twig for look number 2. So we're going to use that shade to set my eyeshadow primer. This is a Flawless concealer brush from e.l.f., by the way. This is my favorite brush to do this kind of step with. Then on a Sigma E24, I'm going in with the shade Iris. And we're going to start running that right here into my crease. I am using the same brushes that I used for the other side, but I did wipe them off on a little silicone mat. And then I'm going to go back in with the shade Twig and work around the edges of this shade. I'm going to take the shade Cocktail on a Sigma E54, and we're placing this shade right out here. Just keep dipping back in to build that up. Wow, that's pretty. Same brush, I'm going in with the shade Doll, and we're going to place that shade right here in the beginning half of that lid. Okay, that's really pretty. Okay, I'm going to go in with my Smashbox and Becca Under Eye Corrector, which I think I used a little too much. Let me wipe some of that off. And then my Ilia concealer. Just a little dot of that. I do really like this concealer. The more I wear it, the more I really like it, and I love the shade of it because it's like my skin tone. It's not a brightening concealer by any means, or like the shade. Okay, I'm going to take the shade Cowboy. I only dipped one time into that shade since it's a deep matte. Wipe some of my brush off a little bit. And we're just going to run that along the lower lash line. Okay, and we're going to go back in with that doll shade, which was this shade I put on the beginning part of my lid. And we're going to place that on the inner corner, and I am going to put some of it on the lower lash line as well. Then swoop some up in there. Okay, so there we have the first two looks with this eyeshadow palette. So I'm going to go ahead and do the rest of my face right quick, and I'll be right back. Okay, so here is this final look. Also, I got mascara marks on my lid, so please ignore that. I just put my mascara on, so I'm letting it dry, but here's the rest of the face. For blush, I'm wearing the House Labs Color Fuse Glassy Blush Balm, and this one's in the shade Glassy Pomelo. I think this is just a really pretty shade that kind of goes with anything. And then on the lips, all I'm wearing is my Say Glossy Bounce Lip Oil in the shade Dip. I just wanted something really nice and hydrating on the lips because my lips just feel so dry, so that's the only thing I wanted to apply. But there's looks 1 and looks 2, so let's move on to looks 3 and 4. Okay, I just want to go ahead and apologize for my voice because I've just basically lost it. I mean, I feel fine. My voice is just gone, but I'm going to go ahead and try to film looks 3 and 4 with this Beauty Bay palette. I'm going to show you the next swatches for look number 3. What I'm going to try to do today, if I can, I want to do double filming if possible because I want to film 3 and 4 and then I might wipe it away and go ahead and film looks 5 and 6, and that way tomorrow I can film a 7th look, and that way I'll have 7 looks with this palette, or like a week's worth of looks for anyone who might just want some inspiration. So let me show you the swatches. I'm going to zoom in a little bit, and I'm going to show you the swatches for the next look. I just had a random generator pick out these shades for me. So this is the color scheme we have for look number 3. We have Pancake, Petal, Trophy, Tender, and Rose. I think this is such a pretty color story. It's so soft and dainty. And then we have that really pop of purple. The only thing that I've done so far is taken the shade Twig and just placed that all over my lid. So on a Sigma E24, we are going to go into the shade Petal. And I'm going to run that into my crease. Also, I don't know if you've been paying any attention, but for looks 1 and 2 and today, I've been wearing nothing but my pajamas. I'm filming these pretty early, so I haven't even like actually properly dressed for the day, but I figured none of you would mind. Also, a lot of people probably love to do their makeup in their pajamas. I just keep building that shade up. It's a really soft, pretty shade. I did wear the first 2 looks for a while. I don't remember exactly how many hours I wore it, but it was on. But I was wearing that look, or well, both looks, I should say, for quite a while, and it looked really beautiful by the end of the day, which I figured it would. Okay, and then I'm gonna take some of the shade Twig, which is just that like skin toned shade in the palette for me, and just kind of lightly work around the edges of that shade. On that same brush, I'm going in with the shade Tender, and I'm gonna also take that into my crease, but a little bit lower than I took that other shade. Like this is going to go like really right into the actual depth of my crease. This had like a little bit of like a rosiness to it, so I thought it would be really pretty when I put the shimmer shades on the lid. Really been enjoying this palette. It's just really easy to work with, and I love these types of tones, of course. I love neutrals. And in between everything, I go back in with the shade Twig and just lightly work around that, just to make sure it's nice and blended. It doesn't have to be too perfect because I am about to actually, or I'm hoping I'll have time to wipe away these 2 eye looks and go ahead and film 2 more today. So I won't be wearing like mascara or anything because that'll be a lot harder for me to remove. So I'm just going to show the completed eye looks. On a Sigma E54, I'm going in with the shade Trophy, and I'm going to place that out here on this outer corner of my eye. I'm probably going to have to keep dipping in a little bit. I feel like these shades would definitely perform a lot better using your finger, but I just want to be a little more precise with the brush. It's a really pretty shade. Of course, you can see that if you apply it with your finger, you could definitely get more impact out of that shade. But it's fine being soft like that for me. I like soft makeup. Okay, I wiped that same brush off, and I'm going to go in with the shade Rose. And we're going to place that right here at the beginning of my lid. These are really pretty shades. I love how soft that is. This is definitely an eye look that I would love to recreate. Like, just, wear it on both eyes because it's so pretty. I love soft makeup. I've been trying to wear a little bit more bold looks sometimes too, but I do love soft makeup like that. Okay, I'm just going to apply a little bit of my Ilia concealer. I'm not going to apply my Smashbox and Becca corrector because I'm hoping I can just wipe this away in just a second. So I just want to cover a little bit of this darkness. I'm probably going to have to go in with a little bit more because I don't have my corrector on. Okay, and then on that Sigma E54, I'm going to take the shade Pancake, and I'm going to run that along my lower lash line. And then on that same brush, I'm going to pick up a little bit more of that shade Rose, and I'm going to place that right in here. That was the shimmer that we put on the beginning half. I'm going to add a little bit in here. It's really pretty and soft. I really like that. Okay, here are the shades it picked out for look number 4. We have Cacao, Saddle, Jet, Coffee, and Leather. Picked up a little bit more of a smokier color story this time. So on a Sigma E24, I'm going in with the shade Coffee, and we're going to run that into my crease. There's a hair right there. This is a pretty shade. Of course, all these shades in this palette are really pretty. I keep building that up a little bit. I want that shade to be a little bit more pronounced because I'm going to try something in just a second, and I want to make sure that shade really shows up. First, I'm going in with the shade Twig, and I'm just going to go around that shade, make sure it's blended. I don't want to take too much of it away though, because I'm about to go in with that black shade. Of course, I'm going to cover the black shade with some of the shimmers. Thought maybe like using that black eyeshadow as a base for the shimmer shades that it picked this time would be really pretty. Okay, on that same brush, I'm going to go in with the shade Jet. Okay, and I'm going to pack that shade all over the lid. I would have went in with a smaller brush, but I felt like this might be a good way to make sure it's kind of scattered throughout the lid, because it doesn't need to be extremely pigmented. Of course, I mean, it's pigmented enough, even with this fluffier brush. I just need it to be down first so I can put some shimmer shades over the top of it. And I wanted to use a smaller brush for the shimmers. It doesn't have to be perfect because we're about to put shimmers over the top of it. On a Sigma E54, I'm going to take the shade Cacao, and I'm going to place that over the top of the black on this outer half of my lid. I'm going to just keep going back in with that shade and patting it over the top. And using that same brush, I'm going in with the shade Saddle. And we're going to place that right out here, or in the beginning portion of my lid. Just kind of tap that on over that black shade. I think that's really pretty. And it's a world of difference on each eye here. Kind of smoky, and then we got a soft look. Okay, I'm going to add my Ilia concealer, and then I'm going to take the shade Leather. I only dipped once into that shade. Put that on my lower lash line. There was already some of that black eyeshadow down here from before, so it's going to be kind of mixed with that a little bit. Okay, I don't know if I was in focus, but I just placed the shade, what shade was that? Saddle, on the inner corner. And you can see it's actually a really pretty bright shade. Of course, over the top of that black, it makes it look a little bit more smoky. So I'm going to show you these looks right quick, and I'm not going to do anything else to them, like no mascara or nothing, because I want to go ahead and take these off, and I'm going to film the next two looks, but I want you to be able to see these. If you like the look of this one, if you own the Wet n Wild 5-pan palette in I think it's called Petalette, I'm assuming they still make it, I believe you could probably get a really similar look to this eye if you like this kind of look. If you own that palette, I used to have it, but I think I actually decluttered it a long time ago, but it created a look about like this. I love to see the difference here in this soft and then have a little bit more smoky. So I'm going to wipe this off, and I'm going to come back and I'm going to film looks 5 and 6. Okay, so for look number 5, it picked out this color story for me. It mixed a lot of like cool tones and some warm tones here. We have mauve, sequins, canyon, bean, and suede. So on a Sigma E24, I'm going in with the shade mauve or mauve, depending on how you say it. And we're going to place that right here. My brush is definitely stained, but it's clean. I've completely wiped off any product that was on it on my little silicone mat to get it clean. Okay, and then I'm going to take the shade Twig, and I'm going to lightly go around the edge of that, just to blend it out. Make sure it's not too harsh. On a Sigma E54, we're going in with the shade Bean, and we're going to run that out here on this outer half of my lid. It is a shimmer shade, so I'm probably going to have to keep building it up and just tapping it in. On that same brush, we're going in with the shade Suede, and I'm going to place that on the beginning portion of my lid. Tap in a little bit more and pick up some more. That's pretty. I like that gray mixed in with that with that mauve and kind of a little bit more purple out here. I thought that would be really pretty. That's another look that I would love to recreate on both eyes. Okay, I'm going to take some of my Becca under eye corrector. I'm going to apply some of that. Since this is the end of my filming, so I'm going to go ahead and apply this. I mean, if I was really intense, I might could go ahead and film the last and final look today, but I'm not. I'm just going to film these, and then I'll film the 7th look tomorrow. That way I'll have at least one look where you can see both on one side. Also, my face is turning pink. What in the world? And then I'm going to take my Ilia concealer. Okay, I'm going to go in with the shade Canyon. Now this is going to be a little bit more on the warmer side, because it did pick 2 warm shades for me. So put them on the lower lash line. This is the only part that if I recreated this look, I would change this up. I would use like that pretty mauve shade down here on this lower lash line instead. But I'm just trying to use as many shades as possible with the eyeshadow palette. And then I'm going to go in with the shade Sequins, and I'm going to run that on my lower lash line too. This is more of like a shimmer shade, or like kind of like a satin type of shimmer. Just running it over that matte shade. And then I'm going to take the shade Saddle and I'm going to pop that right in this inner corner. Since this time it didn't really pick a brighter shimmer shade for me, so I'm just going to apply this one. Okay, here's the next color scheme that it picked out for me. Bangle, Pony, Mirror, Dusk, and Peanut. So on a Sigma E24, we're going in with the shade Dusk, and we're going to run that into my crease over here. This is a very light shade. I had to keep building it up in a swatch, so I'll just keep dipping back into it. Also, this eye over here, even though I used micellar water to wipe it off a while ago, it might still have some remnants of that black eyeshadow. Like, I feel like I can see some, like maybe like in the lashes. But it's okay. It's just me trying, I guess, to be an overachiever. I'm filming as many eye looks as I can. But after these two, I'm done for the day, and I'll film one more look tomorrow. And that'll be like the same look on both sides. So 7 looks I feel like is really good. That'd be like a week's worth of looks. So in case you have this palette and you're just wanting some more inspiration, or if you have neutral shades in your collection already, because you know, if you have, most neutral palettes do end up looking very similar. Of course, that doesn't bother me in the slightest. I love to have neutral palettes. I feel like I could never have enough of them. I love that shade. I don't know if it'll come up on camera because I do have my ring light on, but in person it's just the most softest, delicate shade. It's the type of shade that I would love to take like in the crease and all over the lid and just tap like a topper over the top, and that'd be pretty. I really like how soft that is. On a Sigma E54, I'm going in with the shade Mirror, and we're gonna place that on this outer half. I have to keep building it up a little bit because I'm only picking up a small amount each time. It's just easier for me to work with that way. Okay, and then I'm going to go in with the shade Bangle, and that's going to go over here on the beginning half of my lid. It's a pretty shade. I've really been loving these shades that have like that really soft pinkiness to them. Really pretty. These looks look very similar actually. Of course, I could have used some of the warm shades on the top, but honestly, I've really been loving these more neutral, cool tone leaning shadows. I haven't been really wanting to reach for like the really warm tones, so that's why I did it like this. But if I had done the warm tones on top, it would have looked definitely a lot different from this eye. Or I feel like it would have, because I'd have used this shade and this shade. Of course, I mean, that's one of the things I love about like having a random generator pick out your shades, because I mean, even these same 5, you could totally create a different look with them than I did. I'm going to take my Smashbox and Becca under eye corrector, and then my Ilia concealer. Okay, I'm going to take the shade Pony. I just dipped into that shade once because it looked pretty pigmented. I don't want too much on my lower lash line. And then I'm going to take a little bit of the shade Peanut, and that shade I'm just going to have on this outer half of my lower lash line because it's a little bit of a deeper shimmer, or more satin shade. So I'm going to keep it just out here. And then I'm going to wipe my brush off and then just kind of blend that a little bit more. Okay, then I'm going to go back in with that Bangle shade. We're going to pop that right here, this inner corner. Really want some more, like a pop of pink. There are the 5th and 6th eye looks with this palette. So I'm just going to go ahead and do the rest of my face, and I will be right back. Okay, so here are looks 5 and 6, which they do look very similar to each other. The only difference is this one has that little bit of pinky shimmer. This one just has like more of a matte gray. But just right quick, the blush that I'm wearing is from e.l.f. This is the Camo Liquid Blush in Bold Face Lilac, which I've been loving this shade. Been wearing it so much. And on the lips, I'm wearing the ColourPop Lippy Pencil. This one's in the shade Over the Hills. And the matching Luxe lipstick in First Snow. This was one of the Frosty the Snowman lip kits that they had. I just used those together. And then over the top, I'm using the CoverGirl Clean Fresh Yummy Gloss in the shade Lavender, just for a little bit of gloss. I'm going to do one more look with this eyeshadow palette, and that should get me to be able to use not all of the shades, but more than I had planned to use. So I'll do one more eye look with this palette, and then that'll give like a week's worth of looks. Okay, here is the final color story that it picked out for me. We have Fizz, Decadence, Wine, Slip, and Shell. On a Sigma E24, I'm going to take the shade Slip. Okay, and I'm going to run that into my crease. It was a very light shade when I swatched it, so I might have to keep going back in and building it up. Yeah, definitely have to build that shade up. It's really light. And then I'm just going to take the shade Twig, which is like my skin tone shade, and I'm just going to work around that. And we're going to do the same look on this side. Honestly, I could have done an 8 look, and I think I could have used every shade in the palette, but today is not a good day. I'm going to be so honest. I just want to do my final look here, the 7th look, because I feel like that gives me 7 looks, like a week's worth of looks, and I feel like that's definitely enough, because I already know, I'll just give a little spoiler that I like this palette. Okay, and then of course, I'm going to take the shade Twig, and we're going to go around the edge of that. On a Sigma E54, I'm going in with the shade Decadence, and I'm going to pack that on this outer half of my lid. This is a really pretty shade. Pick up a little bit more on the brush. On that same brush, I'm going in with the shade Fizz, and I'm gonna place that on the beginning half of my lid. That's a really pretty shade. Okay, I'm going to take my Smashbox and Becca under eye corrector, and then I'm going to take my Ilia concealer, just a little dot of that on both sides. Okay, I'm going to go in with the shade Wine. I only dipped one time into that shade, because it's really pigmented. Go all the way across with it, and I keep wiping my brush off in between just to make sure I'm not adding any more to it, just trying to blend it out. You know, it was not the best move to put a shade that color on my lower lash line when I'm sick, because that kind of reddish wine color definitely does make it look like I'm sick. And then on that same brush, I'm going to take the shade Shell. I'm going to put that right here on this inner corner. It might not be bright enough. Adds a little something. Kind of run it all in here as well. Alright, I'll do the same thing on this side. I'm just gonna kind of run it in here, and then some on the lower lash line as well. Okay, so here is this final look. So I'm just going to do the rest of my face and I'll be right back to get my final thoughts on this palette. Okay, so here is the 7th and final look with this eyeshadow palette. And for my blush, I'm wearing the Tarte Amazonian Clay blush in the shade Energy. And on the lips, I'm wearing the Rare Beauty Kind Words Matte Lip Liner in Worthy. And over the top of that, I'm wearing the Lawless Satin Luxe Lipstick in Baby. Okay, so I feel like I have used almost every single eyeshadow in this palette. I think there might be maybe 5 shades I didn't wear from this 42 pan palette, so I feel like that's pretty good, and I really do like it. I wish that I had tried Beauty Bay a lot sooner. I know that a lot of you have left comments before about how much you like their palettes, and I've seen some other creators mention them a lot in their videos too. So I'm happy that I finally decided to try them out, and I can't wait now to use the smoky palette that I picked up, but it might be a while before I do that because you see that it takes about 7 to 8 looks just to use all of these eyeshadows. But I've loved every look I've created. I really enjoyed this palette. Outside of me being sick, I've really enjoyed the looks I've created with it. I think they've all turned out really pretty, and I mean, if you love neutrals and you want just one really large neutral palette, I don't think you'd be disappointed with this palette in the slightest, and I can't wait to use the smoky one. But I do hope that you enjoyed today's video, and if you did, I hope you will please consider leaving a like, a comment, or subscribing if you haven't already. Make sure you hit the bell icon so you are alerted to all my future uploads. Follow me on Instagram at Jessica Dearly, and all of these products will be listed and linked for you below. They are affiliate links, so if you click through and purchase, I do earn a small commission. And if you choose to do so, thank you so much for supporting me and my channel, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye!